Hey YouTube, Elmo Arteaga here for ProStudioLive.com, here with another short tutorial for you. This tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to get the most out of your vocal tracks using a couple plugins. The plugin I'm going to be showing you today is Wave's C6 multiband compressor. Now a multiband compressor can be used on a variety of different things, but this particular multiband compressor I like because you get the 4 bands of multiband compression along with 2 floating bands that go all across the board. They're broadband, they can be narrow, they can do whatever you want, and that's why I like this plugin, especially on vocals. Vocals are a very tricky instrument because A, everyone has them, B, not everyone's great at it, and C, it is the most intricate of instruments. There's a lot of different things that make up a great vocal take, and there's even more things that make up a great vocal mix. So here, I'm going to show you how to get the most out of what you have using this plugin. So the vocals that are recorded on this session were recorded using a Bach Audio 251, which is a very, very delicate sounding condenser microphone. It's got a very extended range in the top end. It sounds fantastic on vocals, amongst a lot of other things. So let's have a listen to what this sounds like. Up on Pro Tools here, I have my settings engaged, and this is the last plugin on my vocal chain to get the most out of it. So let's go ahead and hear it as it's engaged, and then I will bypass it to show you what it's doing by process of elimination. So let's go ahead and have a listen.
I keep on chasing you around the stage, but you're telling me that things have changed, that you ain't the woman that I grew up with, but there's still something I can't resist. I'm a fool, but I know what love is, and
Cool, let's go ahead and solo out the vocals just to get a better understanding of what exactly this plugin is doing. What I heard, and I'm not sure if you heard it too, but what I heard was a lot more of the breath when this plugin was engaged. A lot more feeling spoke to me. A lot more of what the singer was trying to convey, the emotion that the singer was trying to convey really jumped out at me when I had this plugin engaged. So let's see if you can hear that when we solo out the vocals.
Well, I keep on chasing you around the states, but you're telling me that things have changed, that you ain't the woman that I grew up with, but there's still something I can't resist. I'm a fool, but I know what love is.
When I hear that passage when the plugin is disengaged or bypassed, I feel like there's a couple frequencies that are really taking away from that emotion and kind of clouding everything up. So let me go ahead and explain how I'm using this plugin for you. I have, as you can see, I'm using all bands in different ways. Right now, I'm going to bypass the 2 floating bands and focus on the main 4 bands and give you a better understanding of how and why I'm using them. So this first band, the low band, I'm using with a crossover point of 247 hertz. That means that everything below 247 hertz with regard to this band will be compressed. The following band, the mid-range band, I'm using the frequencies between 247 hertz and 6,000 hertz. To me, that is the bulk of where this vocal is sitting. the main mid-range frequencies. Now, with this plugin, you don't have much room to go further than 247 hertz in regard to the low band. it's pretty much there. It goes up to 250 hertz. So I have it set right around there. The high band, or the high mid rather, I'm looking at from frequencies from 6,000 hertz to 12,000 hertz. And then the high band, I'm going from 12,000 hertz and above. This is just to give you a better understanding of the range of frequencies that I'm going to be affecting. Now let me go ahead and bypass all the frequencies and solo out each individual so you can hear what those frequencies sound like. This is the low band.
I'll be waiting here for your return. When are you coming home?
Now, that last band may have been difficult for some of you to hear, but to me, that last band was a very crucial range of frequencies, especially with vocals. There, I find a lot of breath, a lot of tonality, and a lot of inflection. Inflection is the way that a word is said, the way that a word is sung. It really gives character and life to a certain phrase or passage. So, I really, when I set this C6 up, I start with the high band first. So what I do is I set my threshold. Once I set the range of frequencies, I set my threshold to where it's clamping down pretty much all of the dynamics except for the lowest and least intrusive ones. So let's go to a quieter passage and see where this threshold is sitting.
Well, I keep on chasing you around the States.
As you can see, right when he gets to the S's and the very quietly saying parts, I don't want to be compressing any of that. However, I do want to be compressing everything above that, which in most cases is about 90% of the vocal takes. If we go to an even quieter part, you'll see it at an even grander scale.
To keep you from running away.
Comparing that to a loud passage.
When are you coming home?
That's how I have most of these bands set, is based off of the quietest passage and setting the threshold right above that. Now, there are some exceptions based off of content, how the singer was singing, the type of singer, the type of song. There's variables, and there's always variables, but play around with it and see how you like to set these up. This is just how I like to do it. So, going along all of these bands, I have different modifiers on this plugin. I have a gain function, which I also use a lot of. I have a range function, which is equivalent to the ratio of compression that is being attacked on each band individually. You have individual control, and over here you have global control as well. So you can control all of the gains at once, or individual ones how you see fit. But after the range, we have an attack function that sets the attack of the unit per band, and then also a release function, again, per band on the plugin. Now, we also have over here the master section where you have the option to choose your compression knee, your compression behavior, and your release characteristic profile. This I have set to ARC, which I believe is an automatic release constant or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but it's automatic. It helps glue based off of its own algorithms. I enjoy how it sounds. It also has a manual one which listens directly and primarily to these numbers. However, leaving it at ARC for the time being, I have my behavior set to opto, so it's simulating an optical compressor, which I like for vocals. It's pretty cool. And then I also have my compression knee set to hard, whereas on soft, it has a gradual increase of ratio by threshold. So when it's below the threshold barely, if you have a soft knee, it will start compressing. When you reach threshold, it will reach your programmed ratio, and then above the threshold, it will go above your ratio. And so I just wanted it to be hard knee where it just listens and hits. So now that I have these set up, I have the gains set up in a certain way equivalent or proportional rather to the range or ratio of my compression. My high frequencies, I'm compressing pretty heavily. As I already showed you, I have my threshold set to everything above the quietest passage, and I have a pretty aggressive threshold. That means it's clamping down on all of the dynamics on that upper range of frequencies. That's beneficial because it will allow you to really control all of the dynamics of the inflection, the breathiness, and also the emotion that's conveyed through the singer. And then what you're allowed to do when you have all of that clamped down is gain it up considerably without anything poking out at you. The last thing you want is to bring up the high end and then everything just sounds brittle and harsh and things hurt your ear when you're listening. So that's why I like to use this high boost on the high frequencies only when compressing, equally when things get too rowdy or too much. So let's have a listen to what this band sounds like, bypassed and then engaged. It's a very subtle effect, but it makes a much larger difference when everything else is going. I just wanted to illustrate that it doesn't quite sound much different when you have things set up this way. However, in the context of everything, there is a grand difference. So going along here, I have an attack that's very fast and a release that's medium fast. Given that it's a high frequency, things move fast, I want this to kind of be a little slower and glue it all together somewhat. So I chose a medium fast release. Same thing with this high mid band. I have a very fast attack and a medium fast release. I wanted it to clamp down mostly. That way I could gain it up. Also, this is gained up pretty considerably as well. This range, this high mid range, gives me a lot of the characteristic of the voice. However the singer is singing, whether it's a raspy voice, a nasally voice, a smooth voice, this high mid range gives me the characteristic, whereas the high range gave me, again, the emotion, the breath. That sort of thing. This lower mid-range, like I mentioned, gives me the meat of the vocal. This is where the most of the vocal sits. So this one I'm not compressing so much. I have a shorter range, so a lighter ratio, and I set my threshold to be just under or just into where these frequencies are sitting. Let's have a listen.
Oh, when are you coming home?
Contrasting with a quieter passage.
To keep you from running away.
See, it's barely sitting on top of where the quiet passage is, and it's barely underneath where all the loud passages are. So I also have a pretty fast attack to clamp down really fast, and then I have a faster release to allow for more transients to come to and be compressed lightly. I also have this gained up a little bit to help remove some of the harshness factor or the brittle sound that you might get when you add so much high end to an already bright source. Given that this microphone already records very bright, I want to be very careful and mindful of how I treat the high end. Now, the last little bit of this is the low end, and I use that to kind of keep this at 0 and just compress downward just slightly enough to where I can tilt the important frequencies. Most voices, especially male, have a lot of low-end, rich frequencies in it. So I want to kind of make it a little brighter and tilt the frequencies a little bit up more towards the top end. So I just kind of use this to compress. I have a medium-fast attack and a pretty slow release, not too slow. This compressor also goes very slow on the releases. So I wanted to keep it at a relatively medium fast, medium slow release time. This is also the default setting for this particular band. So I liked where that was. This threshold is set rather low. However, I don't believe it's very low with the content provided.
Oh, when are you gone? Well, I keep on chasing.
However, you can see that even in the quiet parts, there's a considerable amount of low end. So it's important to tame that out to make sure you get the most out of that upper range and out of the emotion, because you don't want it to be covered up in these low frequencies that are getting muddied up by all these other instruments in a dense rock mix like this one. Now, you might be questioning, what about these floating bands? What are they doing? Why are they so important? And these are actually why I choose this plugin as opposed to the counterpart, C4, which is just 4 bands of multiband compression. And I do that because every voice has resonant frequencies, and they're always different because of physiology. A voice may be built differently from one person to the next. So having these 2 floating bands allows me to isolate 2, at least, frequencies that are resonating in a weird way with vocals. So let's take a listen to this first one. It's a little bit lower. I'm going to solo it for you.
Well, I keep on chasing. Oh, that you ain't the woman.
You can kind of hear it in a couple different places. I was jumping around just to show you a couple different words. There's a weird kind of howliness.
That you ain't the woman.
Bypassed.
That you ain't the woman.
It definitely makes a difference when it's there. And now I also have things kind of similar to one of these mid-range bands. It's a pretty fast attack, medium fast release. I did this to make it quick and grabby. I want it to catch a lot. Now I also have a very narrow bandwidth because I don't hear a lot of frequencies around there doing it. It's only a few, and maybe even that one center frequency of 925 hertz. I'm not sure. All I know is that when I had this in solo and I was sweeping around, that was the area that stuck out to me, and I almost said, ow. That's how I find these resonant frequencies. I will gain this up, and I will listen in solo and sweep around until it hurts my ears.
That you ain't the woman that I grew up with.
Somewhere right around that 925 region. So taking that away only when it becomes too much is crucial to maximizing your vocal takes, because if you're taking it away all the time with an EQ, there may be elements or words or phrases or even a whole song that doesn't feel the same because it's absolutely taking away all the time. What I'm doing here is I'm using it dynamically. Only when I need to will it remove the information. Now, I also have a similar band on this other one, a little bit higher up. Now, I have both of these gained down just a little bit. I felt like maybe it could use a little bit more shaping after the compression, but let's have a listen to this higher band and hear what that one's taking away.
That you ain't the woman that I grew up with. Oh, when are you coming home? And I will find a way to bring you back home.
As you can see with the quieter parts, it's not really doing too much, and that's the point. These 2 floating bands are to remove the extra, the things that are a little too much, that might be, if you leave them alone, they might kind of hurt your ears. So let me go ahead and show you really quick how these 2 sound when you just bypass them with the rest of the music playing and engage them with the rest of the music playing as well.
And I will find a way to bring you back home, to get you where you belong. 'Cause Jenny, you're always gone. And oh, when are you coming home? I'll be waiting here for your return. You ain't the woman that I grew up with, but there's still something I can't resist. I'm a fool, but I know what love is.
You can kind of hear that blanket that's covering the vocals when these 2 bands are bypassed and allowing, with all of this other manipulation that we've done, allowing those problem frequencies, let's call them, to peak through too much. So these two bands I kind of use to undo, so to speak, some of what we've just done with this C6 in terms of the addition to the upper range and stuff. This really helps to maximize the vocals. It really helps the notes to come through, and it more than anything, it helps you hear what the singer wants you to hear. So I use this on all of my mixes all the time. It really helps to get the most out of my vocal takes. I hope you learned something cool, and thank you for watching. If you really liked what you saw here, please head to prostudiolive.com to check out a longer, more in-depth tutorial where I deconstruct this whole mix, this whole song top to bottom. It's called Deconstructing a Country Rock Mix. It's fantastic. It's got like 7 hours of content. Again, it goes through all of the mix, and there are no secrets. Everything is touched on, including the master bus and all these individual tracks. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. See you next time.